about how to draw them, okay? Spectroscopy, we talked about that, okay. So what's the first mechanism that we did? Imine. Okay, so what's an imine? First of all, how do we make an imine? So you have your carbonyl, what are we adding in? An N. What's key about that N? It's got to have two H's. Two H's. Why? Because the first H, after you come on in, you take off to clean it up. But you need the second H to help out with that carbonyl to go away. Right? And the new topic that we learned is proton transfer. Right? Where you're grabbing the H from your own rear end instead of getting it from somewhere else. We're just talking about what we do. Okay, so, I know, it looks really nice. Cut or just wash?
I'm pretty sure I think.
Yeah, some people, they watch like, hey, you look different.
People are like themselves.
Yeah. Sit on the water. Okay, so how do I make an enamine then? An H, right? You only have one H, you're lacking an H, you grab it from the H. Now, where does that second H come from though? Is it from the water? Where's the second H come from? The second H?
No, it's going to be
It's got to be from somewhere where the carbonyl used to be alpha to that, right? It's not the H from your amine, it's the H from your carbonyl next to that. Okay, so I hope you guys practice that. Those last couple days, if you haven't, make sure you practice those. Okay, and that's kind of where we stopped, right? We didn't do anything else with that? Okay, so let me finish up with okay, so we stopped at imine, we stopped at enamine. You all felt good about that? Any questions on those mechanisms? No? Okay, so what we're going to do now is, so when I go to the next slide,
I should keep recording.
I should just keep going. Okay, so now we're going to add water to our carbonate, right? We added something that was N. And remember, the whole point of this is whether it's neutral or whether it's charged, right? If it's neutral, what do we have to do first?
Make it charged.
Make what charged? Okay, I've got my carbonyl, okay, and I'm adding something in neutral. What's the first step I do before I even do that?
And the carbonyl is neutral.
No, carbonyls are not going to attack. Carbonyls get attacked. All right, let's review. I've got my double bond O, okay? I've got something neutral coming in. Let's give it some dots. What's the first thing I've got to do to draw that fly in? It's neutral. It doesn't want to attack. Not break. Well, break double bond is number 2. What's the first thing I got to do? It's like, if I wait long enough, she might say the answer. We're going to protonate the O, right? This guy grabs an H first. Well, you said the carbonyl, so I thought you were talking about the carbon. I'm sorry. Yeah, the O grabs an H, which then makes the double bond go up, which then makes this positive, which allows something neutral to come in, right? But what if I have a carbonyl and I'm adding OH minus? It's minus. It's just going to come on in. That was the whole point of last chapter, right? CN minus, Grignard, C minus, UPS truck, H minus. Everything from chapter 20 was minus. So I didn't have to mess with the carbonyl O. I just come on and attack. But in this chapter, if it's neutral, you've got to take that O from the carbonyl, give it an H to pull that double bond up so that carbonyl carbon is feeling positive. And that'll sucker punch your little fly in. Remember the Venus flytrap? Bring it in so it'll want to attack. Okay? Is that a little review from Monday? Guys, remember that? Okay. So H2O. Is that a negative nucleophile or a neutral nucleophile? H2O. Neutral, okay? So you're going to have to do what first? Protonate the O. So anytime you have water, you're probably going to see the word acid, H2SO4. Maybe sometimes they'll write as H3O+. Maybe they'll write HCl. But you have to have the word acid in there because you've got to pull that O and that double bond up, okay? Is that right about? Okay. All right. Now, the first part of the chapter talks about this. If you have more R groups, it's less likely. What do I mean by that? Okay, what do I mean by more R groups? Okay, so let's do this example. I've got this guy right here, H, and then I've got this guy over here with R and R. All right, so I have a big RV truck. And I want to drive into this parking lot. Which one's going to be easier to get into? This guy or this parking lot? Why? tiny. That's a big, wide open space. That's like parking near the dorms out there. Woo! Man, you could park crooked, nobody would care. Try parking in front of the library. Oh, good God. If you're crooked, people leave nasty grams on your little, park, go to parking school, right? Because there's not any spaces. It's very, very tight. So the more art groups you have, the less likely someone's going to attack. Right? Because it's crowded. So the nucleophile's like, well, the heck with you. You got too much going on. I'm just going to stay neutral. Right? So the more art groups you have, less likely. Okay. Now remember, we ain't got no leaving group this chapter. Okay, that was bad English. We do not have a leaving group. All right? So don't go up and come back down and think you're going to pop off something. There's nothing to pop off. Remember, we're talking about a ketone and we're talking about aldehydes. Ladies and gentlemen, what would you pop off on those? Nothing. There's nothing to pop off. There's no leaving groups, okay? No leaving groups. All right. Now, the result is you're going to get 2 OHs. Okay, you're going to get 2 OHs. Where do the 2 OHs come from? Well, first of all, let's talk about what's that called. A 2 OH system is called a Chem diol. G-E-M. All right? The word gem actually comes from the word geminal, which means twins. You guys know the zodiac, Aries, Taurus. Anybody a Gemini in here? You're a Gemini. Fazana's a Gemini. Yeah. That means twins. Okay? So I don't really know what that means in terms of personality. Do you?
Split.
You're a twin? Do you like to copy people? Okay. Not so much. You like to be your own person? Okay. I have no idea what, but that's where it comes from. Twin. All right? So I'll talk to you about gems in a little bit. But you can do the water adding 2 ways. You can add it using a base. So if you have a double bond O, C, you can have OH minus going in. Okay, that's with a base. All right. Now, if I add it with an OH minus with a base, do I need to protonate that O? Do I need to protonate that O if it's OH minus coming in? What do you think, Marcus? No. Why not? Because there's already minus. Very good. But what if I add water? Okay, what if I add plain old water? You're going to need it. So it's called the acid catalyzed hydration of a carbonyl. That's why they called it in the book base catalyzed and then acid catalyzed, because with the water, what are you also going to have to add? Maybe a little HCl or an H2SO4, because you need to get this guy to grab an H plus first. Okay, so there's 2 ways to add water to a carbonyl.
So then the oxygen of that, like, would it grab the hydrogen from the HCl?
Correct.
Or
The oxygen from the carbonyl will grab an H from HCl or H2S4. Or
not from the water?
Or you can do this. HCl H2SO4 with water gives you what? H3O plus. And then it's from this guy that you grab the H. I don't care which way you do it on your quiz. You can say it grabs an H from the acid, or you can say it grabs H from H3O plus. They're both in the system when you have acid and water. Okay? Anytime you add sulfuric acid and water, you get H3O plus and H's. So it really doesn't matter to me. Either is fine.
Aren't you trying to make 2 OHs?
Yes.
So then why can't you just grab it from H2O? Because
Okay.
there'll be the H go over there and then the
H2
OH
or
will
H3O?
come from the H2O.
Okay? If you grab H from H2O, you make OH minus. You have acid, so guess what? These will put the H back on. Okay? So that's why these are 2 very distinct equations. Let me say that one more time, because what Farzan said is one of the most common mistakes people make for this mechanism. Okay? You got to protonate the O. Bing! I'm going to get it from water. Because if you grab it from water, what does this become? OH minus. Now we're a base. And you have acid in here. So guess what? They're just going to put the H back on there. So that doesn't really help. This OH minus isn't going to attack, because it's going to disappear in about 10 seconds when the HCl says, here, let me give your H back. Okay. Now it's neutral. It doesn't want to attack. Okay? So you're either acid catalyzed or you're OH minus. Either or. Okay? Good question. All right, so Chem diol, the way I teach everybody this is, if you've ever watched the cartoon Chem and the holograms, okay, it's an old cartoon from the 70s, and yeah, so it's a rock singer, as you can see, and she's got little holograms behind her, and she goes on these adventures, you know, killing crime and singing while she does it. It's really cute. She goes, Chem! Now, of course, my diagram's not shown here, all right? If you don't like that analogy, I'm sure you can come up with your own, okay? But literally, that's how I remembered it when I learned this. I was like, Chem-diol, and I put my arms up, 2 OHs, okay? I know it's a little lame. I know, I'm lame. Okay. All right, so let's draw the mechanism. Oh, and it's not showing me that I got to do the PDFs. Let's see, the sliders are recording. Oh, I didn't do an override. I didn't do the PDF.
You could do mine. I have it all.
Is yours still recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I screwed that one up. All right, can you guys see that? No? Yes? Thank you, Jessica. God help you. I'm so glad you're here. Can you guys see that? Okay, so let's draw the mechanism of this. All right, go. All right, we're going to do the forward, then we're going to do the reverse. Oh! So that's the name of this chapter. I'm going to have to ask you to go backwards and forwards on a lot of these. Oh, great, I'm glad the quiz is on Monday. All right, so let's work this together. What do you guys think? Now, if you guys read, you should know this. Okay, so right, this is acid catalyzed, so add some H3O plus. We need soap. Now, Jessica, can I pause this and then keep recording? How does that work? So if I pause it,